Hi, Urmi.
Hi.
Hi. Yes. So let me know mm, when you need me to talk or say anything.
Hi, Namrata. Good evening. Um,
A very good evening to all. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. My name is Rangoli Dhingra, and I look forward to moderating today's session. Thank you for joining us for Careers After Ashoka, a very special webinar, as today we will be covering careers and placements at Ashoka from three different perspectives. We have a stellar lineup of panelists this evening, and I can't wait to get started. So without further delay, here we go. We have with us Urmi Singh, Senior Director, Career Development Office, Ashoka University. Urmi Singh is Senior Director, Career Development Office at Ashoka University. She's based in Bangalore and is largely responsible for outreach for both placements and internships. Urmi holds a master's degree in industrial psychology from Pune University. She has over 20 years of experience in the training and development space, the FMCG industry, startups, and in the education sector. Prior to joining Ashoka, Urmi has held pan-India positions at FMCG organizations such as HUL and Marico, where she spearheaded both product and behavioral training. Interestingly, Urmi is also a very proud Ashoka parent, not once but twice over. Hi, Urmi, happy to have you here today.
Good evening, Rangoli. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Look forward to the session.
Thank you.
Next in line, we have Namrata Gill, Vice President, Human Resources, Dr. Reddy's Labs. Namrata Gill is associated with Dr. Reddy's Laboratories as the head of COE and Corporate Human Resources. She's also the head of HR for the API and APSL businesses at Dr. Reddy's and is leading all global COEs for Dr. Reddy's. She has her hands full, whether it's rewards and performance, digital HR, talent management, talent acquisition, employer branding, campus and employee experience, and much more. Being a part of the steering committee for Apex Diversity Council, she has played a key role in sustaining the diversity and inclusion agenda for the past 5 years at Dr. Reddy's. She was the catalyst for driving programs like Comeback Careers, employee-centric policies, and for initiating diversity hiring through a robust recruitment process across different levels. Her work and passion for what she does is well recognized in the fraternity. She's been honored with several awards such as Scripting New Leadership 2020 by the Code of Work, India's Top 100 Emerging HR Leaders 2019, and the Great Managers Award, to name just a few. Driven by her fundamental belief that passionate people are the primary drivers of business results, Namrata has worked towards turning organizations into passion hubs for people in order to maximize individual and thereby the collective potential of the organization to deliver distinctive and significant impact. A privilege to have you amongst us, Namrata. Very warm welcome.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to the session. Thank you very much.
And likewise, Namrata. Last but not the least, we have Gauri Bansal with us, an Ashoka alumni who now works as product manager, global participation at Twitter. Gauri Bansal was a part of the second undergraduate batch at Ashoka and majored in history and international relations. While at Ashoka, she started the Ashoka University Leadership Summit and held leadership roles in various clubs, including the Cultural Ministry, Abhinay, the Dance Society, and the Edict, Ashoka's official newsletter. Following Ashoka, she joined the India arm of the Albright Stonebridge Group, a global business advisory firm where she worked with clients across the globe and sectors including e-commerce, social media, renewable energy, social impact, and more. She then joined Twitter as a program manager and executive assistant to the managing director and worked on strategic initiatives for the company in India. She's now product manager at Twitter and is part of a team that is responsible for building the platform in emerging markets. She also consults with organizations in the education and social impact ecosystem. Very, very warm welcome to you, Gauri.
Thanks, Rangoli. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today.
Likewise, I'm really happy to have all of you with us this evening, and I extend a hearty welcome to each one of you once again. And to our audience, feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We'll be taking them up at the end of the session. Before we deep dive into the moderated panel discussion, I invite our panelists to share some highlights of their professional journey so far and their respective association and experience with Ashoka University. Let's begin with you, Urmi.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rangoli, once again for the opportunity. So I have been with Ashoka University and at the Career Development Office for about 2 years now. And it's been an honor and a pleasure, honestly, to work for this office. It's a role that is extremely contributory by nature, you're looking for a job for an undergrad who's going out into the world, and you are the bridge between him and the job world. So it's a contributory role, highly satisfying, and I love it over here. Let me just tell you a little bit about what the Career Development Office at Ashoka does. So the Career Development Office works actively to ensure that those looking for an opportunity to apply what they learn in their classrooms and further their own learning through internships, jobs, and other career options have access to right career opportunities, and they set off on a sustainable career path. Now, this office is a 11-member strong office led by Assistant Vice President Priyanka Chando, and we are all connected with about 1,200 organizations across sectors, and we continue to grow the network through ongoing outreach. 500 plus organizations have shared roles for placements and internships with Ashoka students over the last 5 years. Ashoka has been offering placement assistance since 2011, and we are now in 2021, so it's been 10 years. The 2011 was the year when the Young India Fellowship Program was launched. The career office was set up in 2014 when the university was established. And from then on till now, we have placed 1,286 students across industry and across multiple roles and organizations. So primarily the role of the career office is, of course, placement and internship. But there are a bunch of many other things that we do. And I'll just quickly take you through the kind of things that we do besides placement and internship. The main objective of placement and internship is we produce the best talent out there to the organization. And in order to do so, we do a CDO, that means Career Development Office, preparatory program. This is a product which is hosted, which is ours. And the preparatory program is intended to upskill the graduating batch through comprehensive sessions and workshops, specially designed to complement their education with practical skills required for the workplace. Sessions include a variety of things. I will come to that later. Apart from the CDO preparatory program, we also do CDO speaker series. It's like a masterclass with the CXO level leaders. Eminent industry experts visit Ashoka University and spend time sharing their knowledge, their experience, their life journey, their career about the industry, and they address students' queries about careers in various sectors and professional life and culture. To give you an example, this year we've had head of HR from Microsoft giving a talk. We've had Nestle MD giving a talk. We've had representation from HUL. So we've had senior leaders coming and talking to our students, and that gives the students a perspective on what can they expect from organizations. We also have founder sessions. As you all know, that our founders are stalwarts from the industry, and we also have founders spend time coaching our students, helping them grow with the vision of the university. Some founders who have conducted sessions recently include Pamad Sinha, Vineet Gupta, Ashish Dhawan, and Aditya Ghosh. All of us have, we do something called office hours. Each members of the career office is available for office hours to all students, whoever may need our expertise, to discuss student career prospects in a one-to-one session. And these office hours are often converted into mock interviews, feedback session, etc. So the career preparatory program that we do is an intense program. We start somewhere in August and we run it from August to October, and it's packed with session to make our students absolutely job ready for their interviews that start from the month of October. So to start off with, we start with lighter sessions where we give them industry and sector overview. You see, an undergrad student often doesn't know what is FMCG, They may not know the difference between an FMCG and pharma. They may not understand what are the roles that these organizations are talking about. So it's very important for us to give an overview of these sectors. And the sessions are usually taken by mid-senior level professionals from the organizations, or more recently, our alums are helping us a lot in taking these sessions. Now, in any kind of a placement process, resume is one of the key tool for any student applying. So resume building session is taken very seriously. We have sessions for LinkedIn, because each student need to produce a LinkedIn profile that looks, that looks different, that looks creative, and they should all stand out. So we have sessions from LinkedIn. And then we move on to a little deeper session where we give them a one-on-one class on finance, for non-finance, analytics, Microsoft, Word, Excel, etc. We also give them a session on solving guesstimates and case study, because many organizations, especially the one in consulting, the way they select students is through guesstimates and case study, and we give them a session on that. We give them a session on group discussion, interview preparation, industry specific mock interviews by alumni and members of the career office. So this is an extremely important chunk of what we do. And we tirelessly work towards making our students job ready. After doing a 2-month program, the organizations then start visit us. For instance, this year, from October 22nd, we have started our placements. Happy to share that out of 400 that we need to place this year, we have already placed 100 students in less than a month's time. We've had stellar organizations coming in for placements, and it's a diverse set of recruiters that come to Ashoka. The student body is very diverse. The aspirations are also very diverse. We have organizations from the startup community, development sector, e-retail, logistic, conglomerate, pharma, FMCG, all kinds, BFSI, consulting, and all kinds. And the organizations that hire, to name a few, are BCG, Boston Consulting, Bain, Google, Deloitte USI, Deloitte India, Dr. Reddy's, of course, we have Namrata right over here, Hindustan Unilever, Genpact, Zomato, Byju's, just to name a few. But we have a whole lot of industry and whole lot of organizations that come to us for hiring. Now, the interesting piece over here is, and this is what we are seeing, is that up until a few years ago, the roles were seen very restricted in silos, in sectors. For instance, roles in health, roles in agriculture or tech. You could be an engineer, you could be a doctor. There wasn't much of a cross connection or cross connection between the various sectors and between disciplines. The things are changing, and ever so fast. Every discipline is required for every sector, for every role. So there is no independent silo of just health. Today, the health sector cannot survive without technology, or technology cannot survive without finance. So there is an interface everywhere, and every discipline depends on the other. Therefore, the interdisciplinary emphasis that is there in Ashoka education, that really helps in shaping today's careers. So for instance, psychology. Psychology is a subject that can be put to use in any job where there is a consumer, where there is marketing, where there is community, where the mind and the behavior needs to be understood to create a solution. Can psychology survive with CS? Definitely. If a computer science student does a minor in psychology, he then understands the mind, he understands the behavior, and he also, of course, knows coding. So his coding would be more human as against someone who probably has only one discipline knowledge. Organization looking for interdisciplinary mindset? Yes, they are. Artificial intelligence, which comes from computer science, is very well married to philosophy, because philosophy then questions what is knowledge, is it relevant? Now, when you have a knowledge of philosophy and you have a knowledge of artificial intelligence, your end product therefore becomes far more robust. Policy is again a sector that is seeing a lot of traction from students who have done political science and history. History, because whenever you're forming a policy, it is always nice to know history of what the policy was before, and therefore what can we do now to come up with a better policy. Political science, of course, is required, because then you understand politics of the world, national politics, geopolitics, whatever that might be. Bioinformatics. Bioinformatics is huge. We've used a lot of bioinformatics entire COVID time, and interdisciplinary again comes to play, because then you have biology and math. Behavioral finance, because our spending power, how much are we spending, what are we spending on, this is all money, this is all finance. But if again I marry it with psychology, that becomes behavioral finance. So economics and psychology again is something that is very well sought after. So the roles therefore that are coming to us, to Ashoka University, are very unique. It really does not matter which major you're doing or which minor have you taken, because no more is a recruiter looking for a pure breed. People and recruiters are looking for students who understand the breadth and the depth of knowledge, which is what Ashoka University provides our students with. So it's extremely important to understand the interdisciplinary factor of Ashoka University. Regardless of the major that you choose, the roles could be, it could be a consultant role, a brand strategy, business analyst, a data scientist, or generalist roles like marketing, HR, finance, etc. We have just now concluded a process that came to us from Google. And again, Google understands the Ashoka mindset, and we did not have a job description which was a pure software developer, but we had strategic cloud engineer profile with us, and our student got picked up. That is more of a techno consulting role. So very interesting. This student from the computer science department, but with background knowledge of economics and finance, got picked up for a role like that. So interesting role comes our way. It really doesn't matter which major you do, but what matters is that whether the basic foundation, which Ashoka is so proud of, is well sorted out or not in each and every student of Ashoka. And that is ability to solve problems outside, in an ambiguous situation. The ability to communicate, be it written or verbal, the ability to think critical. And Ashoka spends a lot of time in enabling our students to think critically and to solve problems and communicate well, which is where they stand out. Are we really competing with the business school? Well, not really. So this is how I look at it, is that if there's a boardroom and if a decision is if there's a problem and a solution needs to be created, the business school graduate will bring a business angle and a perspective, and Ashoka will bring a liberal kind of a perspective, a solution which will be completely out of the box. And together, the final solution then becomes a lot stronger. And organizations are realizing that, because of which we do have job descriptions that typically went to business schools till probably a few years ago, but that comes to us now, because I think they want solutions that are robust in nature and that are wide and deep in nature.
Yeah.
So that's what's in the career office. And over to you, Gauri.
Thank you so much, Agni. That was a whole lot of detail, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of inputs from Namrata and Gauri as well. So thank you so much for a huge start. Over to you, Namrata. We know you are a qualified engineer. Perhaps that is where the journey began for you. From then to now, how has it panned out for you? Namrata, over to you.
Yeah. So you're asking the question about my journey, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I started my life as an engineer, and I, from the beginning, don't believe in boundaries. And I remember when I had to move to HR, my father said that you do your MBA because one day they'll ask you and you will not get a job because you're not an MBA. And at that time, I told him I don't believe in boundaries. And one of the reasons I believe in knowledge and its practical application. Um, so, one of the reasons why I admire Ashoka so much is that there are no boundaries. It's not a stereotype that fits in any of the courses we took. I remember when first time somebody told me, "Hey, can you go to Ashoka and take some students from there?" And I was like, "What is Ashoka?" This is like 6 years back. 6 years back, right? What is Ashoka? Are they MBAs? Then they said liberal arts. And I remember being that corporate snobbishness on my nose, saying that, hey, we don't take liberal arts students. What would they do? And I have to tell you, in a way, it's a replica of my life journey. I was so pleasantly surprised. And now I get so much demand. In fact, we have a subsidiary organization called Origin. And I was talking to them. He said, hey, I don't want IIM and XLRI people. Could you get me people from Ashoka? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And I
That
remember
is
first time
music
when
to our ears. Sorry about interrupting, but that really is music to our ears, Namrata.
yeah, exactly. So I remember first time I got students, 3 students, and I said, hey, these are great students. Why don't you take them? And there were no takers, and I had to take 2 of them in my team. And within 3 months, everybody wanted them. So, and that was 6 years back, and now the story is entirely changed. So in a way, my life journey is very similar to not having boundaries, not learning and doing things as we go along, challenging myself, turning. And I just was talking to somebody around 5 days back that as I turned 50, I want to start the next 20 years of my life, and I need to have a personal aeroplane. I hate flying in commercial planes. And I know I won't have that when I'm a commercial, but this is something that I picked up from building your dreams from people from Ashoka. And so 3 years I'll have my own plane and not a second-hand 5-seater. It'll be a good plane.
Fantastic. And I'm not looking forward to that plane. And we hope we continue being in touch and we are on that flight with you to somewhere beautiful. So thank you so much, Namrata. That indeed is very encouraging for our students and all the listeners who are tuned in today. So parents being parents, not much has changed. Yes, you want.
Sorry, just one more. I heard Urmi saying that you prepare the students. And I think when I talk to them, you don't need to prepare them so much. They're really good themselves. Honestly, for most of the interviews and group discussions, they're really good. I think we've come a long way from the first time when I came from my campus presentation to Ashoka. Most of the guys and girls turned out in shorts. And I'm so used to blazers in IM. So I think you have to be true to who you are. And that's the most important part.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to take this away right now. So, you really need to be true to yourselves. All of the students and the parents listening in today, we have so much to listen into with Namrata, and we look forward to a lot more. So, thank you so much, Namrata. Fantastic start. And we move now to Gauri, and I saw her nodding very happily when you were talking about the Ashoka students. So, Gauri, having an alumni join us for any session is like a member of the family coming back home, and we're indeed happy to have you here with us this evening. They say once you've been at Ashoka, you can never quite completely leave. So, is that true for you as well, Gauri?
It absolutely is. I think it's it always feels like coming back home. And I was nodding more to Namrata, saying that we took that chance because I was that second batch when there was no one on campus. Some recruiters took a chance on us and were employed. So that was something we're very grateful for. But no, it's been a tremendously rewarding journey for me during and after Ashoka. Like I said, I was a part of the second batch, so the concept of liberal arts and Ashoka was still very new in the country. But I think it's safe to say that it's one that fundamentally has transformed me personally and professionally. I came to Ashoka as a science student, as we all usually are in India, and within a few weeks into my first semester, I started exploring various disciplines. I mean, Urmi spoke about the interdisciplinary nature, but I think it was extremely fascinating to me. We, as a collective society, are so used to thinking in very narrow disciplinary boundaries, and I think Ashoka fundamentally challenged that within the first few days. It was a culture shock, it was an intellectual shock, which turned out to be one of the most impressive and interesting parts of like the time we spent in the classroom. Like I said, liberal arts was still gaining steam. So some of the concepts that I was exposed to within the first few months, I mean, I was comparing that with what my peers in other colleges were studying, and it was extremely different. The kind of ideas, questions, learning material that I was being exposed to, the culture, the kind of peers I had peers from all over the country, different countries outside of India. It was incredible. And I ended up switching majors so many times because that's the kind of flexibility Ashoka provided me. So I came with a intended economics and finance. I hopped over, I think, about 3 disciplines until I finally sat in an international relations class and fell in love. So whatever notions I had about the world kind of just shattered, and I ended up doing something entirely different. But what I miss and cherish the most about my journey is the time I spent inside the classroom. It was magical. I mean, professors were rock stars on campus. We still miss and adore them because they really were people who changed us for the better, and helped us think and become better individuals in general. Learning wasn't just limited to the classrooms, it was also outside. We were, because being in the, one of the first few batches, we set up these clubs, these activities, things to do on campus. We sort of led the culture. It was wonderful. We were a small but mighty community, and I'm really glad that we're growing into a force to reckon with in the professional world. But yeah, that was I mean, I'd love to talk more about it in detail in through the conversation. But post Ashoka, I ended up joining the India arm of All Right Stonebridge Group, which I got via an Ashoka placement. So extremely grateful for that. But it was a wonderful and a seamless experience. Even then, when we were just setting up our office, I was very happily surprised with how student focused the whole process was. And now I'm at Twitter, and the journey couldn't have been more different from my intended major. I studied history, and now I'm in technology and internet. So that sort of just speaks to also what Namrata was saying. We break boundaries. That's what we do. And yeah, that's been it. But it's always like coming back home and enjoying my time talking to students who are considering Ashoka.
Great. Thank you so much.
Rangoli, can I just add to what you said?
Absolutely, yes. Please do.
So when I talk to the students who have recruited, and we've been doing it over the past 5 years, I think they love the place. There's something magical about Ashoka, and I don't know how to describe it. They work hard, they learn hard, but they develop great personalities, right? And Urmi will relate to it. She has children going there as well. So I think they discover personalities, and I think they intellectually develop a lot, which helps bigger corporations and startups. So the kind of thinking that you want in people, because today nobody wants to employ a person who's a doer, right? They're robots and bots for that, right? So you need people who think and who have an independent and critical ability to think. And the best thing I like about people, Ashoka, they don't agree with me easily. So if I tell them, can you do this? Why do we have to do this? Can we do it like this? So earlier I used to get very irritated. Now I see the value that they bring to the table. So there's something very magical about the development in Ashoka, which is important in the corporate life where I come from. But more importantly, it is important that they become better human beings to their parents and to the society in general.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Namrata. And coming from you, I think this should make a lot of meaning to a lot of listeners who are tuned in today, because this is something that we tell them all the time. But here is a lady, a very senior HR professional who validates this very much, So you really don't have to agree as long as you have a better way of doing things and you're free to do that. So thank you, Namrata. Thank you so much. And this really, we are halfway through the session, but I am ready to take back all my pearls of wisdom from here, but let's just move on with the session and dive right into the curated, moderated panel discussion. So here we go, Urmi, and this is something really, really important. Each time we think placements, we think internships, and more internships are impacting placements. So in that respect, and where do internships stand in the scheme of things at the Career Development Office at Ashoka? Urmi.
Very interesting question, Rangoli. Internship is a big piece. And it's slowly gaining a lot of traction. So, a lot of organizations come to us for our year 3 students, year 2 students for internships, which they do in summers. And most often than not, these internships turn into offers. So they come back to the university, do their last year until they graduate, and go back with the offer that they have in hand. So the last year is crucial for them to come back to the campus, and they do that. We've had an extremely good round of internships last year, where the stipend went up to 1.5 lakhs a month, and that was a huge stipend given to us, and our student got it. Again, that also converted into an offer. So internship is big. It's one of the bigger routes now to get into a job, get a job. And we are working very hard. We do an internship fair every year in the month of February. This year also, we will be hosting that. And last year for the internship fair, we rolled out multiple offers, on the fair day. But over and above the fair also, we do have internships that are going on, the processes that are going on continuously. So just to tell you that last year on the fair day, 120 plus organizations participated. And by the end of the day, that's just one day, we rolled out about 240 plus offers. So that's the size of internship, and it's going very well. You're in mute.
Apologies for that. So Namrata, coming back to you and stepping outside of Urmi's office, what skills do you look for in candidates while hiring at your organization, and keeping in mind their internship experiences? If you can just shed some light on that, please.
So I was looking at some of the questions that were coming in, and there's a very interesting question on English, that low confidence in non-English speaking. I can tell you it's so overrated. We don't look for English at all. The one thing that everybody looks for is a learning agility. How fast the person can learn anything. Because I don't want the skills he has today, but I'm looking for the skills that the person can acquire tomorrow. So I test the pace of learning. I see the examples of learning. I see a lot of examples of learning. The second thing I look at is independent thinking. How much instructions do I have to keep giving this guy? Can he think independently? Can he solve a problem and come back with a solution? We hire these guys at a pretty senior rank, right? We don't hire Ashoka guys at the bottom of the pyramid. So in a way, they need to be thinking for themselves. They need to have a lot of learning agility. Third thing I really look for is deep. Whatever you learned, whether it's history, arts, or even statistics or economics, your depth in the subject, right? How well you know what you learned. So that is extremely important for me. I have taken these guys in HR. I have taken these guys in marketing. As a product market person will tell you. We've taken them in frontline sales. And there's a very interesting person who joined us. And he could not do numbers, but he ended up being in a compensation and analytics specialist because he could derive insights from the data that we used to hand over to him. So there's a lot of modern traits these person go on. They also grow fast. People from Ashoka, it's not only when we hire them, how do they grow? They grow very fast because the ability to think and be independent. Does it answer your question? I don't know. Did I
It does.
confuse you?
It absolutely, no, not at all. It does. And it makes us happy that ability is not the only thing you consider, but the potential is something that you have laid a lot of importance on. So I'm sure that is a very encouraging thing for students to hear this evening. Gauri, coming to you, and you are the youngest amongst the lot. Can you just tell us something about your academic journey at Ashoka and how it helped you deal with real world challenges at work and otherwise?
Sure. I think as I've come to realize, I've been in the workforce for about close to 4 years now, which isn't a lot, but the challenges that I've encountered in every job, they have been, I mean, the issues have been complex, they're diverse, they're multifaceted. They often require us to think from many different perspectives, reconcile different disciplines and domains at the same time. They require us to shift domains very quickly because the world's just changing at that pace. I think in many ways, Ashoka really championed that before we even got into the workforce. I spoke about how it pushed us to think beyond boundaries, but also take a very interdisciplinary approach to solving different and complex problems. So, I mean, you can take any pressing issue that we have in the world today: climate, history, political structures, economic reforms, filmmaking. All of them require us to be critical but creative at the same time. Often collaborate with people from various different points of view, and work in a way that is innovative, fast, clutter breaking in many directions. So I think Ashoka always pushed us that to not seek the right answer, which I thought was very refreshing, and also challenge defined structures. You have the ability, like it'll empower you to challenge and question almost everything in your way so that you emerge wiser. And I have borrowed heavily from this notion at work. I mean, as a consultant, I worked with multiple sectors and clients from different geographies at the same time. What I found most interesting was that there were texts at Ashoka that I read that exposed me to different cultures. So I was able to borrow what I learned about their culture and employ it to build different connections with my clients. And I mean, the what I learned at Ashoka came in the most beautiful, effortless ways in my everyday conversations that just added so much more to what I was able to bring to the table at the workplace.
Wonderful.
And and I mean, then at Twitter, I mean, it's the world of the internet. It's ever evolving. It's not limited to any discipline. I worked across marketing, product, content, comms, policy, all at the same time. So overall, just how I interacted with my peers and with those in positions of authority, collaborated with different people, led with empathy. All of these were things that were integral to the Ashoka curriculum that I sort of learned and helped me at the workplace.
Absolutely. And I think this exchange, I really, really would stress on the fact that diversity is a huge thing at Ashoka. And according to you, and we have, I mean, you really validate that for us. Diversity has helped you to adapt to different cultures and thereby in your workspace as well. So thank you so much, Gauri, for that. And I know we did say we'll take up questions at the end of the session, but here is one question specifically for you, Gauri. And taking you back to the basics, back to where you started, how was your interview process for the undergraduate program at Ashoka? And any tips that you would give to students applying this year?
When I even heard the concept of Ashoka, it was still so new. I didn't know what to go into my interview thinking, but I'm glad that we have a more defined process now. I think it was pretty straightforward. What convinced me about Ashoka and wanting to apply here was the opportunity to learn with a very different cohort and the fact that I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to study. So I think it's a great way for someone who is either sure of what they want, but even if we're still in school. So if we think that we have the option to explore what we may want to do within the first few semesters, that's possible. My experience was actually pretty seamless. I went through the website, which I think is a world of information in itself, and there's constantly knowledge that Ashoka is putting out about the processes. So I would highly recommend everyone to go through with that and understand what they're interested in. The application process in itself, going through the application, then an on-site exam, followed by an interview, and then the selection. I thought it was a very well-rounded way to assess a student. It wasn't just based on a cutoff. And I like the fact that I could enhance and share different parts of my personality and story with people who were looking to build this cohort at Ashoka. So I think what I was primarily looking for was flexibility, was the opportunity to explore, was a great time with a great set of leaders and also the faculty, which I thought was a significant highlight at Ashoka and continues to be. And the process was extremely seamless. It allowed me to show different parts of my personality and highlight my story, and also show, things that I could work on. Ultimately, I did not have to be the strongest candidate, but I had to show what I could learn from Ashoka and sort of reach my potential.
Great. Thank you so much, Gauri. That's really, really very encouraging for all the young students who are listening in today. So coming back to you, Urmi, I really have had this on my mind since we started this evening. Can you just share with us a unique role or position that was given by an organization to a graduate from Ashoka University in your last 2 years here?
Yeah, sure. So there is this organization which is in the startup space called Rapido Bikes. They are very, they're present in Bangalore, and what they do is they give you bike service to go from point A to point B. And it's largely a tech company. It's an internet-based business. And it's suddenly we hear that we have a student from psychology major who's got an internship in Rapido. And we were wondering what she's doing over there. Turns out that she's in the product team, and all her peers are from IITs and the other engineering schools. And she's this only grad from Ashoka, and that too not CS, psychology, hanging around with them and doing stellar work. So we were like, okay, she's doing an internship, and next after 2-3 months, we know that she's even been given an offer. So now she's working in Rapido, and I'm so proud to say that here's a kid from psychology who's doing a product job in Rapido. It's very interesting because all her peers, like I just mentioned, are technical. When I asked her how is psychology, contributing to the role, so she says, look, I talk to my clients. Every business has a client. I talk to my clients. My clients are consumers like me who take the bike ride, and the drivers who ride the bike. She is in Rapido Auto, so that is like a Ola Auto. And now she has to understand the pain points from the drivers and from the consumers and come up with solution. And then she goes and interfaces with her tech team, design team, the entire, the app thing. And here's how a psychology major is contributing to a tech industry. I think that's a very, very unique story. And this is how the world is getting smaller. Disciplines don't matter. What matters is smartness of the mind and agility to learn, as Namrata was saying.
Fantastic, Urmi. This is indeed a very, very unique example. So I'm really curious to get more into what exactly she does, other than, of course, getting into the minds of the the bikers, etc. But we'll come to that later. Coming to you, Namrata, and this is again on the other side. What, in your opinion, makes Ashoka students stand out amidst the many, many applicants for a position at Dr. Reddy's?
So I'll talk about my experience and why do I like working with them, right? And why. So I personally hire on an average 1,000 a year, right? So that's the kind of numbers we're talking about. So I'll divide my question into 5 parts. I'll give you 5 qualities why I hire from Ashoka. The first thing is absolutely authentic, right? So they will never dodge, they will never lie. They'll get up at 10 and they'll come at 10:30 and they'll tell you they are late. They will not say it was because of traffic or anything. Small things, the values that people have taught them, allowed them to be themselves, right? So it's absolutely authentic, very genuine, high on integrity, right? Any organization, I don't know any other college that does that so much. So that is first thing. Second thing is they'll deep dive in and they'll not give up till they complete the problem, right? So, and you can throw at them anything because they have done so many 23 subjects in 1 year Young India Fellowship. So you can just throw them any problem. Hey, I'm thinking of how to have more transgenders in the company. Can you come back and solve the problem? Okay. I want to make a newsletter. Okay, that's easy, right? These are easy. I want to increase my employee engagement score. Our policies are not very human, right? And I'm talking about just. We talked about, a medicine, right? Medicine. So the point is that they come back with solution. Third thing, I really like the language, right? Whatever language they use, they're very deep into that. They can express exactly what they're saying. In fact, my chairman asked me for corporate communication, can we give him somebody? Can we give him somebody who's from? Sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, for corporate communication, can we give him somebody from Ashoka? And I was like, they'll be too young for you. He said no, and the person managed beautifully, right? The third thing I really like about people is the way you select, right? You don't select class toppers. The selection process that you take for grading the people in Ashoka. I think Gauri mentioned about teachers and professors. I think it's a very rare for all the students to look up to most of the professors, right? But they do that, right? So there's something very nice that you're teaching them. The last thing I want to talk about is I said it enough, but I think they are not afraid to disagree with you and tell you the truth. I think that's very rare in this day and age when their promotion, when their increment, and when their appraisal depends on the boss, right? So I think all these things makes them really unique. All good organizations would like to hire from. They're already hiring, but I can just say that they would continue to hire from them. And sometimes when I go to hire, I'll hire two. I end up hiring 6, 7. So my team, before anybody goes there, they set a limit. No, you can't hire. We don't need more than this. But we always end up hiring more people as we go along.
Great, great. So I'm really happy about the fact, Namrata, that you aren't just focusing on their educational qualifications or the professional capabilities, but what you are focusing on is the other skills that they've acquired at Ashoka while they've been at Ashoka, the critical thinking, or even the sensitivity that they've acquired while being on campus at Ashoka. So thank you so much for highlighting that. That really is very, very relevant to this session today. And while we're still with you, there's one question from the audience, and this student wants to know how many students from Ashoka do you have at your organization currently, and what are the kind of roles they are in?
I would think we would have more than 20, if I'm not mistaken, at any time. I started with HR, we went to corporate communication, we went to R&D, like you said, working with the scientists. We went on product management, there too in marketing now. And there's one person who's doing learning and development, and there's one person who's actually in quality. Oh, sorry, there's one person who's doing digital transformation.
Right. So that really is a very, very impressive lineup of Ashoka students out there. So happy to hear that, Namrata. Thank you so much for that information. Gauri, coming back to you, I know I'm doing this back and forth from alum to recruiter to the CDO. So Gauri, if you can just shed some light on, your learnings that whatever you've learned at Ashoka that really make you stand out amongst your peers at work.
Thanks for that question. In many ways, it'll have to be parallels to what Namrata spoke about. I think our education system hinged upon a certain framework and ways to think and operate. Within the first few weeks at Ashoka, I was very convinced that that's not how it's going to be here. Many things were challenged. And I think ultimately what worked was it taught us very future forward skills and things that really, I employ even to date. I'll break it down into 4 core things that really help me stand out and sort of show up to work in a very confident and polished manner and sort of set myself up for success. The first is the ability to shift contexts and domains very quickly. I think the challenges that we're faced with at work today, especially when we're dealing with multiple teams, there is a need for for us as individuals and not just generalists, any sort of domain, to be able to look at a problem and think about it from different perspectives, and also take the shape of whichever room we're put in. And I think that ability to move from, in my case, say I was solving a challenge of improving the health of conversations and conversational safety on platform for women on Twitter. At that point, I had to have conversations with teams across policy, communications, trust and safety, product, data analytics, every team, and come from an informed perspective around how can we solve a behavioral but a critical challenge that sort of inhabits this strong core user group. That's just one example, but I think every day in my work I'm supposed to do that, and I think Ashoka is one that sets you up to it the best, because you're hopping into classrooms from poetry to literature to economics, social and political formations, trends in history, and the likes of it. The second is to think critically and to think from first principles. I think Namrata again hinted at that, but I think we're really encouraged to go back to first principles and ask the right questions before we approach a problem. It's not just about what we want to do, but why we want to do something. And that is something that we found that was very unique in often we are the only voices in the room who are sort of even going that level. And in doing so, it makes you comfortable with authority. It makes you come to senior leaders with a very informed perspective, but also ask the right questions so that we're able to add value, not just sort of execute what's given to us. The third is ability to communicate effectively across both formats and audiences. I think we need to balance corporate comms with business comms, with academic comms. We're trained in every type of communication so that we're able to find the right tools to put our ideas forth. And communication, I mean, increasingly is becoming the hinge point that's defining how successful you are in your professional career, because there's all these things that you could do, but if you can't communicate it effectively and put your point across, it's really the central piece of how you can sort of collaborate with people. And the last is regular job readiness. It's done through the workshops that Umi was talking about. It's done through the network that you end up building with your peers. And I mean, this entire journey is very, very central to it. So today I'm quite proud that, I've moved into tech, but I'm the only non-tech person in meetings. I'm the only one who can bring a very non-tech perspective. I'm the only woman in many of these meetings, because I'm pretty proud that as a history major and as a woman, I was able to set myself in a way that I could be a part of these conversations and come from an informed perspective. And I think it had a lot to do with what Ashoka taught me. So those are some reflections.
Thank you so much, Gauri. It really makes me happy to hear all of that. And I'm sure my colleagues out at the outreach department at Ashoka are going to be very, very happy, because we do have a lot of bites from you today, and we are going to be quoting them in our interactions with school students in the coming months. So thank you so much, Gauri, for that. And while we're still with you, just one more question for you. How did you choose the company that you finally, took up the job with? And what were the deciding factors? How many interviews did you sit for? Can you just talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So I sat for, the first job that I got out of Ashoka was at the Albright Stonebridge Group. At that point, it came as this moonshot company. Like, we defined certain companies as really these companies that you need to go after. So like many of my peers, I was very excited. I sat for it. I mean, it was one of the first few companies to come. I was excited about, just the profiles that came to Ashoka. So it was a problem of plenty. Even at that age, even at that year, I sat for about 3 or 4 interviews at the time, but ASG was the first one that I ended up doing an in-person interview for, and I got it. Because it was a moonshot, I just had to grab it, and I couldn't sort of do otherwise. But my deciding factors were really the team and the culture that I was going to join, because my first 2 years, I did not care as much about what I was doing, as opposed to just being in a place which taught me sector agnostic skills. I wanted to learn how to think, write, communicate, collaborate, which is going to help me in every other job that I do. So the team and the culture and how it enabled me were very important for me as a deciding factor. The second was the nature of work. How much exposure am I going to get? We as Ashoka students often did not start with, just the basic job. We were always given a level up, because that's the kind of caliber that often students brought to the table. And finally, most importantly, it was what I would learn at the end of my stint in my first job. So these were things that both my peers, my professors helped me analyze each opportunity that came my way and sort of make an informed decision on how it would prepare me for my short-term career. When I wanted to join Twitter, it was the same because the fundamentals remained the same. I went from consulting to tech, so it was me changing a sector. But at that point, tech was exciting, and it brought my interests and skill sets together. So I set similar benchmarks for myself, went through 6 rounds of interviews, and got the role that I did. So if I had to summarize, I think it was pretty straightforward. Ashoka got a very select but curated set of profiles for us. And what made it helpful, what made making the decision helpful was a strong understanding of the team culture, what we're going to learn, and the nature of work in consultation with all these people who were on campus to help you.
Great. Thank you so much, Gauri. And what really I find impressive out of this conversation is that you haven't stopped being a student. The more you talk, the more you tell us about how you continue to learn. And this is something that we tell the young students, you are preparing to be a student of life and a student for life. And here is a shining example of exactly what we tell the students. So thank you so much, Gauri, for yet again validating all our claims. Urmi, coming back to you. We have discussed a number of recruiters here. We have inputs from Namrata and Gauri, but can you just share with us an experience with onboarding a new recruiter?
So onboarding a new recruiter is sometimes a challenge because they ask, who are you? Are you an engineering school? So you say no. Are you a business school? No. Then who are you? And then comes the challenge of explaining who we are, and we are in liberal arts and sciences, and it's a little different from a typical engineering school and a business school. So I was talking to Hindustan Unilever, and this is an organization that typically goes to the top management schools, right, to the IIMs. And they had heard of Ashoka, but they weren't too sure about who we were and what kind of talent would we bring. So anyway, the meeting went well, and they said we will try out with internships first, and then we will see if that goes well. We'll come back to you for final placements. So last year they came to us for internships, and our intern from Ashoka was thrown into a pool where her peers were all from IIMs, and here she was trying to understand work and learning from everybody, and she was given a sales and marketing role, and now we had hardcore marketeers coming from IIMs to do the same job. But she did such a fantastic job of what she got. She got Lakme to intern with, and there's little kid all excited in that whole cosmetic world, and she did fantastically well. And so much so that she landed up with an offer. She will join HUL next year after she graduates from Ashoka. And HUL has come back to us this year for final placements because the talent that they saw made them believe that we can contribute, and that too in sales and marketing. It was a big win for us because here we are with the management schools. I'm sure the perspectives that we bring on table is different from a business school, and there is no right or wrong, good or bad. It's just a different perspective, a different angle to the same problem, and Ashoka students bring that on board, which is what makes, like I was saying before, the final solution far more robust and far more creative. So which is what I think organizations are seeing that in us. It's very important, Rangoli, for organizations also to give us the right roles, because sometimes in a cookie cutter role, our students don't fit in. So it's important for us to have that dialogue to give them the perspective of what Ashoka is, then bring about the right role, and then there is no end to stardom.
Can I just add to that now that I'm on the other side, I often also hire for higher roles at Twitter and other places. And I'm looking at profiles from IITs and IIMs day in, day out. It's all the same. It does not matter if you put an Ashoka student, if you put a liberal arts student, and if you put an engineering student today, the kind of skill sets that we as employers today would look at, they're not different. I mean, we would look for the same profile and sort of value them the same. I think that's a lot to do with how we've also raised the profile of what liberal arts can accomplish. But I think if you just get past that stage of the resume and look at the student, you won't be able to tell the difference between the two in terms of their pedigree, what they've been taught, and how they come up to the table and how they present themselves. So I think the lines are getting very blurred, and thank God for that.
You're on mute, Rangoli.
Sorry, yes, I said thanks, Gauri. I'm sure Urmi is very, very happy to hear this from you. And just one more question from you, Urmi, before we move ahead. How about placements in higher studies? What are the top disciplines and, the institutes that the students are opting for? And basically, this is pertaining to the last few batches. And how have the trends been?
So fantastic again. So not all our students are seeking placements in terms of the job world. A whole lot of them are looking for, higher studies. In the higher studies space, we have a lot of students going in with Indian higher studies. So they go to, places like XLRI or any of the business schools. We've also had students cracking the UPSC from the YIF. So a lot of students have aspirations in India, whereas a lot of them go abroad to USA or to any of the European countries doing good research work. So there are students gone to Ivy League. There are students who have gone to universities that are well known for research. So there is a lot of students going to various different universities for various different programs, be it technology, policy, economics, or whatever. But there is a lot of traction there, and there is a lot of students going to some of the top names in the world.
Great, great. So I think we have a number of questions for you, Urmi. But before we just proceed with those, I want to come back to Namrata. I haven't heard her voice in a while. So I know, Namrata, good readers make good leaders. And this one is on a lighter note. I did chance upon a little write-up, a lovely little write-up written by you. And I'm quite certain you are a voracious reader. But this article is about the futility of making New Year resolutions. And we are back to that time of the year, when we are all getting ready to make some New Year resolutions. So any tips on how to zero in on a doable New Year resolution? Namrata.
I think you should just have one New Year resolution. It's for happiness.
Great.
And whatever leads to happiness, you should do it. I've been researching the subject for long, and the second book I wrote, I'm reading rather, I didn't complete it. It's called Exercised by David Letterman, is it? I forget the name of the author. So it just taught me that we just put so much pressure on ourselves and it's not required, actually. So my mantra has been slow down to speed up. So I'm slowing down every day and I'm getting more successful as I slow down.
Great. Thank you so much, Namrata. And for those of you who probably didn't make the connect, there's a lovely little write-up that Namrata has written, and it is called The Drama of Making New Year Resolutions, which she wrote early this year, maybe in Jan 2nd or 3rd. And it's worth a read, so if you can lay your hands on that. So thank you so much, Namrata. Happiness is definitely something we need to aim for. And coming back to you, Gauri.
Sorry, just one more thing that I always tell people, especially younger people who join in college. I think you have to flip the equation. So success doesn't lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success. So the more you try to be optimistic about life, the more successful you become. So maybe there are a lot of questions people asking about admission and that. You'll all get there. Don't worry about it. I don't think everybody has to run the same race at the same time. So that is it.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, that really, really is a beautiful takeaway from this session. Coming to you, Gauri, and we are going to keep coming back to Namrata again. But Gauri, there's a student who is curious to know how is critical thinking and communication included in the curriculum and what goes on in the classroom to enhance that. This probably is taking you back to your Ashoka days.
Yeah, it's really it's very making me very nostalgic now because I have to think of all the courses that I did. But I think both critical thinking and communications are taught explicitly in terms of courses and implicitly, which is a running theme through everything that you do on campus. So explicitly, critical thinking is the first course that you'll be pushed to do. So there are 3 seminars. I don't know if the curriculum's modified a bit, but you will do an introduction to critical thinking, where you will deep dive into different themes, whatever a professor may choose, and you will do a focus seminar just on thinking about text, media, information critically, like how do you break down a complex problem into simpler pieces, and how do you approach them as smaller problems that you need to work towards and frame and solve. That's one. And I mean, as soon as you master intro to critical thinking, you can keep going, you can keep ascending on critical thinking seminars to build that muscle of thinking in a very logical, structured, practical format. And implicitly, critical thinking will be, I mean, it's something that you'll hear about constantly in every course that you do, both foundation courses and major courses. The professor isn't, I mean, how you would discuss a text is not a lecture based format. It's all discussion. Professors aren't your regular professors, they're facilitators. They will encourage you to talk about things in your own language, develop your own mind and perspective about things. These are processes that will help you sort of sharpen your critical thinking skills, because you'll be pushed to sort of think about things in a new way. Communications, I mean, from the what you read to what you produce as outputs, you will produce a lot of essays, often within very short times and formats. Often you'll push them out within a few hours. Communications is something that you will get really, really good at. There's a lot of emphasis in how you structure, voice, articulate, how brief you are, how, I mean, coming to Ashoka and liberal arts does not mean you take up an academic voice or an intellectual voice. The first thing that a critical thinking professor told me was, write in a way my 5-year-old can understand. And that's the best part of communications. So, I mean, let's start there. We're taught to simplify, demystify language and talk in a very clear and concise manner. So yeah, I would say it's both implicit and explicit, and you just have to go through the journey to experience it.
Great, thank you, Gauri. I know we have a whole lot of questions in here and we're running out of time, but just one more question for you, Gauri. And this is from a student who's pinged a couple of times. The student says, as you were from the science background and this is a liberal arts university, how difficult or easy was it for you to adapt to the new environment in terms of your courses? And I do recollect you mentioned that you switched majors a couple of times, but if you could just shed on this science versus liberal arts question that we've got.
Of course. I will be honest, it made me uncomfortable the first few weeks, because as a science student with a CBSE board, you already know what answer you need to get to before you get to the answer. Here, I mean, within the first few weeks, we were being asked questions for which there were no answers. It did not sort of sit right with a lot of students. So as a science student, my first few sort of courses were around history and economics and philosophy and principles of science, which sort of challenged everything that I already knew. So I would say it did make me uncomfortable initially, but I always had people and structures within the university that I could approach to get better at it. So for example, one of the things I struggled with a lot initially was articulating my thoughts. But we have the Center for Writing and Communication with tutors, which initially helped me sort of think about what is it that I'm thinking and how do I articulate it in the best format. The other thing that, I started taking economic courses, but I saw myself getting more and more interested in literature, which is what, the way the classroom was conducted and the kind of ideas I was being exposed to. Although I may not be, top of class in every class, I may not have the right questions to ask, but that was something that was exciting to me. So I think I went really easy on myself after the first few weeks, gave myself time to absorb, to understand what was happening. Give my best in terms of assessments, and over time I honestly saw the change percolate. I could see that I was talking in a different language, I was able to not just bring, a very scientific bent of mind, but also a very intellectual and academic, like build that muscle as well. So I think it's really about giving yourself the first few weeks to adapt to any environment and not be too hard on yourself, and ultimately sort of work towards it, keep learning, keep growing with it, know that it's going to happen very gradually. And as soon as you do that, I mean, it's a lifelong learning, right? You can shift any domain, any perspective,
Absolutely.
and work
Absolutely.
towards it.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for this, Gauri. And Urmi, coming to you, I know we'll have to get you back sometime soon, looking at the number of questions we have specifically for you. But we're running out of time, and I don't want to let Namrata leave without summing up this session with this question from a student in here. Namrata, how do you think the placement mindset has changed over the years in terms of meeting organization expectations versus the kind of students applying for placements?
I think it was always like we used to come and we used to hire and we would call the shots. We don't do it anymore. I think it's the students who are calling the shots.
Wow.
So that has really changed. It's the students who are calling the shots. They decide. And we have suddenly started to put makeup and trying to look attractive for the students as an organization. There's a lot of dressing and there's a lot of learning that we need to do, how we present, how we conduct ourselves in the campus and everything. So that is something that we continue to do. But thank you so much for this. I just want to take a minute to mention great students that we had,
Yes,
and they made all the difference. So the girl who worked with me, Anushka Basu, I think she made a difference. There's another guy, Naman Khandelwal, who came to HR, went to learning, moved to digital, and is the brightest guy. And first day he was like, "No, you are all wrong. You did this wrong. You did that wrong." And I still remember very fondly. There's a girl called Mahima Sharma that we had in our team, and there's Sumana who's still there in LND, and so many more. But these are people I hold very close to my heart even today.
thank you so much. It really, really makes us happy that you are remembering these students so fondly. And I'm sure Dr. Reddy's is going to continue having a whole lot of students from Ashoka. And likewise with Twitter as well, Gauri. So thank you so much. This has been a fantastic evening for me, as I'm sure for all the audience listening. And so this really was very, very enjoyable. Thank you, Urmi. And as I said, Urmi, we need to have you back very, very soon. Thank you so much to the audience for joining us today. We hope that this webinar was helpful in knowing more about the various career opportunities available to you after a liberal education program at Ashoka. We'd really appreciate if you could please take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel should you want to share it with your friends. Our next webinar is on admissions at Ashoka University, which is scheduled for Friday, 3rd December from 6 to 7 p.m. In this webinar, Marcia Prince, Director Admissions Office, will cover the undergraduate admissions application form, essays, and assessments at Ashoka University. The registration link for this is also provided in the chat box. Before we wrap up today, I would like to remind our audience that round 2 of admissions to Ashoka's undergraduate program is open. The deadline for round 2 is 17 January 2022. You don't have to wait for your 12th board marks to apply, and you can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid without your 12th board marks as early as March 2022. That is much before your final board exams end. If you have any further queries regarding various other aspects of the university, feel free to write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or call on the number shown on your screen. Once again, I thank our speakers for taking out the time to participate in this wonderful discussion, and to each one of you who tuned in, thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the session. Please take care and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.